The time being 7 p.m., this meeting of the November 6, 2025 Finance Committee is called to order. We'll start with the roll call. Mary Ann Galezzo.
Here.
Andy Levine.
Here.
Chris Diorio, excused. John Doherty, excused. Brad Jackson.
Here.
Joe Lovino, excused. Anthony Nelson.
Here.
Scott Neville, excused. And myself, Teresa Manganelli. I'd like to ask the Finance Committee to hold a moment of silence for George Hooper Senior, who passed about 2 weeks ago. Among his many, many contributions to the town of Wilmington, Mr. Hooper was a member of the Finance Committee and had served as chairman as well. It is fitting that this company recognize his service. Please join me with a moment in his memory. Thank you all. Now I'd like to open the public hearing with all members present except for John Doherty, Chris Dioro, Joe Lovino, and Scott Neville. Please note, anybody wishing to speak from the audience should limit their comments to 3 minutes if possible. Special town meeting is set for November 20th, 2025, and includes 2 articles. The first article being to see if the town will vote to overturn the action of the Wilmington Select Board taken on September 22nd, 2025, authorizing the demolition of the building known as the former Buzzell Senior Center / Buzzell School, located at 15 School Street. Is the petitioner here? I'm sorry? Would one of you like to speak on it? No. No. Okay. Okay. All right. So nobody wants to speak? Okay. You don't have to. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I don't mind. I can do it. Basically, you don't need me to read the article or anything, just the point in the... are you reviewing both articles tonight? It's not clear to me.
Right,
okay.
We'll do one after the other.
Okay, so we're on Article 1?
Yes.
Okay. So the petitioners put Article 1 on because we believe that the vote that was taken by the Select Board was a non-binding vote, and that vote actually opened up the door for the Buzzell to be demolished. We believe that in the bylaws that it states clearly that town meeting has the authority to decide whether a building gets demolished or not. There is no mention at all in any of our bylaws about the Board of Selectmen or the Select Board that has the authority to tear down a town asset. Under the Town Managers Act, the authority lies within the town manager for all town buildings, leasing, construction, maybe even demolition, renovation. And obviously the school committee also has jurisdiction over the school buildings. But it also states in the bylaws that if otherwise directed by town meeting. So we want to otherwise direct by town meeting and use the authority of town meeting to prevent that building from being torn down. And to make the town aware that the Select Board does not have the authority now and does not have the authority ever to decide whether a building can or cannot be torn down, that it's up to town meeting to do that, the town. And so that's why we put Article 1 on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Oh, absolutely.
To the petitioner's point, would town council like to render their decision if that is true, what she's saying?
Yes, please.
So there was a lot that was contained in that statement, and I do want to make sure we're staying focused on the public hearing for the actual article. In terms of the article itself, the article seeks to overturn a decision of the Board of Selectmen, which town meeting doesn't have the authority to essentially overturn or rescind a vote that was taken by the Board of Selectmen. As for the rest of what was contained in there, that's not anything that is really properly before at this point in time in terms of whether the bylaw says X or Y or who has what authority under the bylaws or the charter, et cetera. The article itself seeks to overturn a vote of the Board of Selectmen, which the town meeting does not have the authority to do.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Sure.
If I could just read the article real quick, to see if the town will vote to overturn the action. We're not looking to overturn the vote. We're looking to overturn the action that the select board took, that they did not have the authority to take. Somebody has to do it. It's town meeting's authority. So what other avenue do you have to overturn an illegal vote that the select board took? We don't know of any other avenue to do that. We see that town meeting is the only avenue to do that. And so the record needs to be, even if it's deemed non-binding, as which has been said that it's going to be deemed non-binding, we believe that the vote itself was non-binding. So we have to take action to as we say, to overturn the action that the select board took. We're not looking to overturn the vote. Thank you.
Can you just clarify for me the difference between taking a vote and taking action?
Well, the vote results in an action. We don't have the authority to overturn the vote. We can't.
So you're talking about the purpose of their vote.
Right. So what we're trying to do is the vote itself will create an action, which is to tear down the Buzzell. And what we're trying to do is to stop that action and prevent that from happening. So we're not saying we want to overturn the vote. We understand we don't have the authority to do that. We're trying to take action to prevent that vote from going forward. And we don't know any other way to do it but to go to town meeting.
Would you like to speak to that as far as the difference between an action and a vote and being able to?
I mean, I understand what the distinction the petitioner is trying to draw, but at least for purposes of the town meeting article, and I think the petitioner has acknowledged this, it would be at best a sense of the meeting vote because the town meeting doesn't have the ability to rescind the Board of Selectmen's vote, and that's what the article is essentially asking to be done.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, so we'll move on to Article. Oh, I'm sorry.
Rob Fasulo, 28 Marjorie Road. Once again, to correct his statement, we're not looking to rescind it. It's overturn the action. But just to get to the nuts and bolts of what this is, I believe you guys have all been residents of town for a long time. I'm going to end this statement with just a question. Do we own that building as a town? Do we have an interest in that building as a town? Shouldn't we say, as a town, tear it down or leave it up? Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan, can I ask you a quick question of clarification on when you read the article? You had said in the bylaw that you thought it states that the town manager would have authority over the buildings.
I can read you. I have it right here.
Sure, why don't you read that?
So this is from Section 12, F. The town manager shall have jurisdiction over the rental and use of all town property except schools. She shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of all town property, including school buildings and grounds, except as otherwise voted by the town. She shall be responsible for the preparation of plans and the supervision of work on all construction, reconstruction, alterations, improvements, and any other undertakings authorized by the town, subject, however, to the approval of the school committee with respect to plans for the construction or improvement of school buildings or property.
So if the town manager deemed that as a building he wanted to demolish, it would be in the right of that bylaw for him to do so.
Yes, if town meeting did not take action on it. But the select board does not have the authority at all. So it says here, and I think what the important part is, except as otherwise voted by the town, she shall be responsible for the preparation of plans and supervision. And blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So,
that could
I mean-
be broad on that.
Right, and I
bylaw,
mean, it
like
is-
numerous things, not just saying that town meeting could.
Right. And, well, I mean, in the past, when the Swain was torn down, it went to town meeting. When the Whitfield was torn down, it went to town meeting. And it was based on this paragraph.
Well, if I remember correctly, those were so appropriations could be raised to demolish those buildings.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't to demolish them.
Right, which
It
begs,
was for the appropriation, which is completely different.
that is very different. And once again, that seems to be a really big bone of contention about, is there an appropriation to tear down the Buzzell at this time? We believe there is no appropriation to tear down the Buzzell. It was ruled in 2022 at special town meeting by the moderator when it was brought up that it was beyond the scope of the article for town hall. And then we hear that there's an appropriation in the budget for it. And anybody can go and watch that town meeting where the town moderator, who's here tonight, suggested that it was not in the scope of that article. And now we're hearing that there's money for it. So once again, that's really very contentious at this moment about whether you can use contingency money, which is for overruns, to tear down a building, or whether it's in the budget. And is with the money that's in the budget enough? And then when you're going to take more money out of contingency? Supposedly it's in the budget. We have asked for public records to show us that it's in the budget, and we have not been able to break through that ceiling to get that information on whether that $80-something thousand that supposedly was put aside for the demolition of the Buzzell, because it was not voted on at town meeting. It was supposedly in the budget somewhere, and somebody brought it up at town meeting about the Buzzell, and the moderator said that's beyond the scope of this article. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could just clarify.
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Jonathan Eaton. I live at 78 Glen Road. I'm also the town moderator. I believe the exchange that was referenced earlier during that special town meeting on November 19th, 2022, Mr. Comogio had spoken and asked, have we considered reusing the current Buzzell building? At that point, I asked George Hooper, who was the, I believe, chair of the Town Hall School Administration Building, to respond to that. He did respond by beginning, we have not developed a plan for that building. Once these plans get approved, these plans being the two articles to build a Town Hall School Administration Building and a senior center. He then continued to caution on the rule of 30% for the cost of renovation and how that would require bringing buildings up to code. Mr. Comogio then asked a follow-up question, which was, by the time, keep in mind this meeting took place in 2022, by the time we talk about 2024 and 2025, there's potentially a year in there where the building, referring to the Buzzell School, would be empty if the senior center is already opened. We could renovate that building as part of the construction of the new town hall. I did rule that out of the scope of the motion that was then under discussion. The motion that was then under discussion included the construction of the Town Hall School Administration Building. It did include site preparation, which I am assuming is what the town is operating under the assumption of for the demolition. But I did rule that within the motion that was then under discussion, the renovation of the Buzzell School was out of the scope of that motion then under discussion. So, thanks.
Thank
you.
you. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'd just take one more minute. You guys were given a copy of a budget back in 2022. I was actually able to get my hands on a copy of it. And the second page of the proposal that, once again, you guys have, it lists that hazmat materials. There was no line item that was proposed within that the scope of that budget, which means there's hazmat in the Buzzell. it's widely known, they reported to you that that was not part of the budget. So how can you demolish a building that has hazardous materials if it was not in the budget? You guys have that paperwork. I strongly recommend you go take a look at it. And if it was in fact planning to be demolished, why would they have not put that within the scope of that budget? It's got its own line item and it's there. It's not in the budget. Thank you.
Mr. Slagle, would you like to address if it is in the budget?
Sure. I don't want to get too far off course because I don't think the current article reflects the discussions that we're currently having. But my understanding is that the demolition of the Buzzell was always contemplated as part of the school hall. The town hall school administration building, and that it was never formally placed in the project line item because it was assumed that that would be done out of contingency money if and when the project had the sufficient funds to do it, by the end of the project. At this time, there are sufficient funds in the project budget to perform that work. So the town does not need a further appropriation. Again, relying on the opinion of town council that because the Buzzell is on the site, this is not a separate address. It's on the site of the school, of the town hall school administration building. That the demolition of an accessory building like that would be part of the site preparations for that site, and that's what it's that interpretation upon which the town is basing its authority to go forward and demolish using already appropriated funds.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to leave any unanswered questions.
Hi, Paul Scheller, 448 Hopkins Street. I just have, just recently received this as a result of a public records request. This has to do with the plans for the Buzzell School leading up to demolition beginning. And just for the record, pre-demolition work has already begun on the Buzzell School. There are people doing hazmat work there as of October 1st. So there is pre-demolition work being done at the school, at the Buzzell currently. But I just want to read.
Can I ask how you know that?
What's that?
Can I ask how you came about that information?
Sure. This is
I didn't
an
mean
email
to
from.
interrupt you, but
Excuse me.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh,
but
sorry.
I
It's an email from Dennis Kelly from October 1st. This is an email from Dan Pilata, the OPM, to the town manager, and looks like it's just the town manager. No, actually, it's to Mr. Kelly and Mr. Hooper as well. Honestly, I would have preferred a bond counsel. That refers back to Mr. Pilata wanting opinion from bond counsel about using funds from Article 3 of 2022 for the demolition of the building. Honestly, I would have preferred bond counsel. I will get with AMAR and get a hazmat and demo spec going for an IFB, an invitation for bid. I do not want to waste any additional funds on consigli. They have enough to do to finish on time. That was October 1st at about 5:04 p.m. Shortly there, well, not shortly thereafter. Go to the next page. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Kelly sends out an email the same night at about 7:44 p.m. AMAR's team was there today pulling samples. So they're doing the pre-demolition hazmat work that was directed to be done.
Well,
So
it sounds to me that email says they were doing work to prepare an IFB,
AMAR is Mr. Pilata's. AMAR was getting with Mr. Pilata to do the hazmat spec, as Mr.
Right.
Pilata indicates.
So a spec, you don't.
Then
can't do work.
Mr. Kelly points out later in the same email thread that AMAR was at the site today pulling samples. You draw whatever conclusion you mean by pulling samples. You know, it's clear from the thread what pulling samples means, but if you have some different interpretation of that, you know,
No,
I'm not gonna twist your arm over it,
No,
but
I just-
AMAR was on site pulling samples, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Slagle.
So I just want to clarify the timeline for folks who may be watching at home. The town did proceed after the vote of the select board with requesting that the OPM prepare for the process of doing hazardous material abatement in preparation for a demolition. They did prepare a scope of work, but once the petition came in and it was clear that there was going to be the special town meeting, we did ask them to put a hold on that. So we haven't done any further work towards hazardous material abatement, just so folks are aware.
Thank you.
Okay, they need to come up to the mic.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak that hasn't been heard?
Hi, good evening. Frank West, 2 Birchwood Road. Again, my apologies. I have a scout meeting on Thursday, so I'm not sure what was said, what wasn't, so I don't mean to, if I'm repetitive, I apologize. One, as the chair of the select board, I will be asking for a motion based on the special town meeting, results of the special town meeting, to see if the board would reconsider their vote. So that's my comment as a chair of the select board. So I think that, you know, the people have a right to, you know, we have a right to the special town meeting, the audience here, people signed up for it, so, you know, we're going to have it. I support the saving of the Buzzell School for a bunch of reasons. Number one, it gives an opportunity for not, you know, we spend a ton of money on sports. We're going to spend, you know, about $2-3 million over at the Lowell Street Sports, and we spend a lot of money there. There are a lot of other organizations other than sports that could use that building. You know, one, you know, they've talked about the possibility of WCTV. They've talked about the possibility of the library, the Historical Commission, other organizations. You know, back in 1990, when I was on the Board of Selectmen, when I was on the Historical Commission, we dedicated the West Schoolhouse. And we weren't allowed to go in it because it was so dilapidated. Well, what happened was that when I got on the board in 2003, I said, look, is there a way that we can restore that building? Because, you know, the town, you know, basically the town government at the time wanted to tear it down. It was a dilapidated old building. What happened was that we ended up, the initial town budget, I don't know if any of you remember, was $250. We were able to get $103,000 in state grants from through the efforts of Maselli and Tar. And basically we didn't have a plan. We just said, hey, let's restore this building to see what happens. What happened from there was that once we started the restoration process, people started coming in and saying, you know what, I could use that building. I could use that building. And guess what? It's, you know, it was dedicated. It was rededicated. I think it was in 2005 for the 275th anniversary of the town, and subsequently used today as the Veterans Building. As far as parking, I don't know if anyone talked about, you know, the need of parking for the town hall. When the town hall was developed, that town hall had, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, it was designed with adequate parking for the town hall and the student parking without the Buzzell School, without the, you know, the extra parking of the Buzzell. I've been driving around being a furloughed federal employee for the last month. I get to drive around town during the day and do some other things. One of the things that I've done is I go to the student parking lot because people have said, well, we need a ton of parking for the student parking. Every day I get down there, there's about 35 empty spots. So, you know, I know that there's juniors that will be getting their license in time and stuff like that, so some of those spots would be taken. But there's also 65 spots in back of the library that is dedicated for student drop-off and student park, high school student parking and high school drop-off. So I think, so that, as far as the money, you guys, like I said, just because they're trying to appropriate $615,000, we may or may not end up using that. I mean, some of this is deferred maintenance. For example, the building needs a sprinkler system. This building needs a sprinkler system, never had it. So if we're going to reuse this building, we're going to have to, one of the first things we should be doing is looking at a sprinkler system. The last couple of things I'll close on, and my apologies if I'm sounding long-winded to some of you, as I'm being repetitive, but the reuse committee had a survey taken. There was 770 responses, 62% supported the preservation of the building in some fashion, and said that the building could be used for something. The neighbors, 100, we got a petition, the Board of Selectmen got a petition from 100 of the neighbors, and the 100 of the neighbors were in support of, and again, they're saying WCTV, but when they're saying support, to me, that means supporting of the building. And the last thing that I'll mention on WCTV is that, as you guys heard, they're looking, their rent right now is $85,000 a year, which is non-sustainable. So what's going to probably end up happening, at least this is what I've been told by several people, is there may be either a town or a petition warrant article for $100,000 a year be given to WCTV from the town budget. So it's either, in one respect, you're going to might be paying it one way or the other. So again, I strongly urge that you guys support this article. It's going to town meeting, and let's see where the chips go. And again, it's again up to the select board. But my opinion is that if the town overwhelmingly supports it, we should overwhelmingly support it. I do today because I've heard the results of the committees. I've seen, I've read, I've talked to people, and that's where I'm at. So
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to move along to Article 2. I think everyone's had a chance to speak that wants to speak. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money for improvements to the former Buzzell Senior Center for renovation and related improvements thereto of said building, to bring into compliance with relevant building codes and standards for municipal and/or community use, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, not to exceed more than $615,000, and to take any other action relative thereto. Now, we have the same petitioners, I believe. Does anybody want to speak to this article?
Hi, it's me again, Suzanne Sullivan, 60 Lawrence Street. I didn't say that the first time. I apologize.
That's okay.
Anyways, the purpose of this article is just what it is to fund some renovation work at the Buzzell. We came up with the numbers from the sheet that was developed by the Building Reuse Committee on the costs, renovation costs, and what it would cost to bring not only the building into compliance with several codes, but to also do some other maintenance work. Unfortunately, this building was not ADA compliant, even though it was a senior center for as long as it was never made ADA compliant. Which I find really disturbing, honestly. But anyways, and the fact that it didn't have a fire suppression system. So just to put in those bare minimums that would have to be done in order to either reuse it as the town or to lease it to a private entity like maybe the WCTV or maybe the Sons and Daughters of Italy, if that were to work out, however anything would work out, if it were to be leased, you would have to bring it up to code. We left all the other issues with the building not in the scope of this article because there was talk as the committee of being a 5-year capital improvement plan over time. If those things were taken, the immediate things were taken up front. And just for full disclosure, I do serve on the Building Reuse Committee, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee. I'm speaking on behalf of myself.
Thank you.
I also just want to let the Finance Committee know that when we had our hearings and our meetings, we we had a lot of people that came in every time for public comments to let us know how important they thought this building was to the community and the needs. We have the Arts Council came in and spoke on behalf of the Arts Council because they haven't had a home for so long. We've heard from the library folks. We know that the library is in need of some space, and we also know that the little house next door to the library is probably slated to be torn down at some time, because how much money does the town want to put into that building? And who's going to be making that determination? So they may end up not having a home, and they donate a lot of money to the library on behalf of the community. So there's a lot of community need here. And WCTV is not going to have a home. They actually wrote a comment, and you can read those comments on the Wilmington website under the Building Reuse Committee. They pleaded for the town to do something for them because they're just about have no place to live soon. And the place that they're paying rent on is extremely expensive for them, and they're not getting as much money from the cable as they used to. So this could provide an out for them. We used to lease land to WCTV, if you remember, at the Swain School before we tore it down. So all these things, there really seems to be a need in the community. If you take the amount of money, it's 8,300 square feet for this building. If you take the amount of money that we're asking for at town meeting, it comes down to like $79 a square foot to bring it up to code. $79 a square foot to bring it up to code. That's nothing. If you were to take the whole $1,000,191, it would come out to approximately $159 per square foot. Right now, the town hall, the new town hall that we just built, is something like $1,500 a square foot. The new school that we're going to build is like $1,500 to $2,000 a square foot. If you were to rebuild this 8,300 square foot building for a community center or something for that nature, which is what people said they wanted, you're talking about $1,000 per square foot. It makes fiscal sense if we want to supply the town and the community with space to rehab this building is the right way to go. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to speak to Article 2?
Joe Jackson, 10 Apple Tree Lane. The thing I wanted to speak on mostly was the thought that as a town meeting form of governance, I think it's important for decisions like this to be made by the town rather than, 3 people voting yes, or a committee that's split by decision, or the town manager saying it's under my purview, but being informed by the direction of the town, as was heard in the town charter. So with that as one thing, and then the idea that the citizens had already spoken by the 700 input survey gives a direction, but it felt not binding enough that something like a town meeting has to come in and say, well, we meant it in a formal setting as well as an informal setting like a survey. So I think it's important to consider that the ramifications of it, though maybe legally non-binding, should fill that clause of the direction of the town for the purpose of decision making, where it seems like the direction of the town is too ethereal to define as the voice of the people. So my opinion here is to voice that the voice of the people in a town meeting setting should be held, if not binding, at least a very firm directive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, again, Frank West, 2 Birchwood Road, speaking as a resident. Just because you allocate $615,000 or whatever the figure is, doesn't necessarily mean that the town will spend it. So if you guys vote to approve, and the town meeting votes to approve to allocate $615,000, and we get the vote to preserve the building, that doesn't preclude us from getting state, federal grants. I mean, it's not by itself, it's not a historical building by itself. It is in a historical district. There is state money that may be allocated, that may be able to be allocated towards it. Again, like I said, I go back to the West Schoolhouse. That was in 1990. That was dedicated, and it wasn't until 2004 that we got $103,000 from the state. We got, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think the septic system in that house, in that schoolhouse, was donated. This particular building is on sewer, so you don't have any needs of a septic. So again, I just say that just because we're with these, the warrant article is allocating the $615,000, and again, the building's going to be empty, so it's not like, oh my God, we got to do this work over the next 2 weeks, or like if it was a school, you got 8 weeks of empty time. So the thing is, it could be apportioned out over a period of time, and in the meantime, whatever the appropriate committee, either from the town side or the historical commission or whoever the appropriate people are, let's talk to our state legislature and see what we can get for grant funding that would decrease that. The other thing, again, going back to the West Schoolhouse, is that we did get Shawshene Tech to volunteer a lot of the labor. So it was a good learning experience for the kids of Shawshene Tech. I know our building superintendent was talking against against using the tech for this project if it was to be done, because they say that the tech is doing a lot of they like to focus on new construction projects. But the reality is that if they're training to be tradespeople in for residential and commercial, a lot of the residential and commercial already exist. My house was built in the 1950s. My office, 386 Main Street, built in 1935, same age as the Buzzell School. We put a ton of money in there to put a new roof, new electrical, new heating system. We ramped the building over. Excuse me. We ramped the building over, and now it's a beautiful building. We did get some funds from the COVID funds to renovate the exterior, the front of the building. So take a drive by and look at the before and after picture of my building. Gives you an idea of what a combination of grant funding, because we did as a small business, and also our own money. So again, I would vote to support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I think I'm going to ask the committee for a motion.
hold on.
Oh. I'm very sorry, Mr. Slagle. Okay.
So I think it's very clear legally that the article to appropriate funds is squarely within the power of town meeting to do. My only concern about something like this is, the town does not have infinite funds. And so is this an appropriate use of more than $500,000 of town funds towards this structure? Or would the town rather spend that money on other buildings and facilities that we have active uses for, or other purposes in the town? So that would be my comment on the second article. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more requests to speak, I'm going to ask the Finance Committee for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any?
I actually, Teresa,
Okay.
just, there were a few comments from the speakers about,
Do you want to keep that for when we do our deliberations?
Okay.
Or is this something that,
I just wasn't sure if, because it was just mentioned. But a few times people asked why don't we get grant money? Has any process started for that yet? Or
oh, okay. Well,
does anyone know?
okay, he's asking if anybody has applied for and received grant money for maintaining and improving the Buzzell. No. He was asking if anybody has applied for and received grant money from the state for the maintenance of the Buzzell.
So is that better? Can you all hear me now? So the question, a few speakers brought up the fact that why don't we get grant money? And I'm asking the question, has anyone looked into that previously? Because right now we're at the point of going to vote. I'm genuinely asking the question. People saying it's possible, but did anyone actually do that work? Or
Can I?
very quickly.
I only know of grant money when it was a senior center that came from the state as a senior center. And I know Representative Maselli had achieved getting some money in some other people to do work to make it a senior center and to maintain it. It was discussed at the Building Reuse Committee, as Mr. West was talking about what we did with the West School years ago, which we've had a lot of use out of that building since that time, because that was another building that was in disrepair. Got some, grant money and also some money from, in the Shawsheen Tech folks did some work there.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Anthony?
I can save the rest for when we speak.
All right, if you like to. Okay. So all those in favor of closing the public hearing then?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so the Finance Committee will now do our own deliberations. You are all free to stay and listen. There will be no public comments taken from the audience for the remainder of the meeting. Okay, so this is kind of hard to do when we're all separated like this. Do we want to start? Does anybody have any comments regarding Article 1?
I just have one thought. I find it a little discerning that the select board would take another vote after they voted to demolish the building, just because town meeting comes and says something different. I don't know what the select board will do after the town meeting, but I just find it a little concerning that would take place.
Anybody else? Andy?
I mean, I don't know the legality.
Sure you're talking to them.
I don't know. Sorry, I don't know the legality, but it feels to me like the question is that action. It's the action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And should the select board have taken that action at all? And I think that's an important thing to know before we move forward to go to town meeting for that second vote. Is that first vote valid? What I'm hearing is I don't know that it is or isn't. So I don't know how to move forward. Personally, I don't know how to move forward with that.
So you're questioning whether they had the,
Correct, based off of what I'm hearing,
okay.
right? And so I think that needs to be decisively stated. The select board has the permission to do that from a legal standpoint.
Would you kindly speak to that, Mr. Fair?
Yes, so the vote at the prior town meeting on the town hall bill.
Yes.
Right. No, I understand. That prior town meeting authorization for the project to go forward included included site preparation within the authority that was granted. This building is in the care, custody, and control of the Board of Selectmen and is within the property that original town meeting vote had authorized for the project to go forward. So in my opinion, if it's determined by the board that in working through this project, and if this building, which is in the care, custody, and their control, needs to be demolished for purposes of the site preparation of the project, it's within their authority to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Does that answer your question? Andy?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Fred? Or any comments?
No. Well, I guess I just don't feel we have, I think it is an exercise in futility to call a town meeting to try to overturn a vote that we don't like, that some don't like, some may like, when town meeting does not have the authority to do that. So regardless of whether I agree with the select board's decision or not, they are the elected officials with the authority to make that decision. And town meeting has no authority to overrule it. So for that reason, I'm going to vote to recommend disapproval of Article 1, just because it's doesn't have any teeth or nothing. It's non-binding.
Has everybody had a chance to make their comments? Does anybody want to make a motion regarding Article 1 recommendation?
I'd move to, that the Finance Committee recommends to disapprove Article 1 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second. Discussion? Anybody? All those in favor of recommending disapproval for Article 1? And it's unanimous. Okay, on to Article 2. Any comments or questions regarding Article 2? Or I will take a motion.
I guess I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Okay.
This clearly is, as we've been told by town council, within the authority of town meeting to raise and appropriate somehow. I don't know how the petitioners intend, where the petitioners intend to get this money, to raise this money from, whether to raise or borrow or whatever. But there's one thing that I look for when I am being asked as a Finance Committee member to authorize and to spend money. I look for who among our town employees is accountable for spending that money wisely and can be held accountable if that project exceeds that budget or is not done, and is actually exceeds the cost of the appropriation. And there's no one in town government who can be held accountable if we need more than $615,000 to prepare this building for use. I know it was an estimate created by a committee, but if this were a request being made by the Public Buildings Department, then we'd have the Director of Public Buildings who we could hold accountable that $615,000 is a number that he, in this case, he puts his reputation behind. I think it is foolhardy to appropriate money for renovating a building that has been voted by our select board to be demolished and have no one, even if they should change their mind for whatever reason, political pressure or whatever, even if they should change their mind, there's nobody who we can hold accountable for making sure that $615,000 is well spent and not overspent and delivers a building that can be therefore used for whatever purpose. And again, my other concern is we don't have a plan. Are we renovating this to use it for a community center? Are we renovating it to use it for WCTV? Are we renovating it to use it for, what are we renovating to use it for? That would also change how much money it would cost to renovate it. Because you may have different electrical needs, you may have different plumbing needs, you may have different air conditioning and HVAC needs based on who the intended user of this building was. So there's just way too many unknowns to be willy-nilly appropriating $615,000 for a building that is set to be demolished. And I can't in good conscience support this effort.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment regarding Article 2?
I just have a question for the group, because the vote to build the new senior center was taken before I was on this committee. But I assume there was a good fiscally responsible reason to build the $18 million new senior center and to want that community to be in that new building and abandon the one we're talking about, spending $615,000 to renovate. What was the main reason back then? Was it that it was indeed in disrepair?
It was size was the primary problem, in my opinion, with that site. The senior center had outgrown the space that they had. They could not conduct the programs they wanted to conduct. The population was aging and expecting more. And I was just at the new senior center today. You cannot even compare the sites. They're just incomparable. So seeing that makes you see what they came from even clearer. And it was mentioned earlier, it was not handicapped accessible. Of all places to need and provide handicapped access, I would think a senior center would be right up there at the top. So I hope that answered your question. I was on the committee for the senior center.
It does, thank you.
So with no other comments from the committee, did we already take a... We do have a motion? No, that's what I thought. All right, so I'll accept a motion on Article 2.
A motion to disapprove Article 2.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And is there any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll take a vote. All those in favor of recommending disapproval? I can't see them there. Okay, we're unanimous. Okay. Thank you all. Now we're just going to move along to minutes for approval, June 24th, 2025.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval? Unanimous. The next set of minutes is September 2nd, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes of September 2nd? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Well,
We already did
oh,
that.
yeah, we did that. Okay. All right, the vote is unanimous. It's the minutes that trip us up. Okay, so the last order of business is to just remind everybody that the special town meeting is on a Thursday evening, which is unusual for the town of Wilmington. On November 20th, it will be held at the Wilmington High School in the school auditorium. All right, so if we have nothing else to discuss, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Not hearing any? All those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.